So for my New York Times presentation, I chose Chapter 8, Inpatient Facilities and Services. The article I chose is called Under Observation, Some Hospital Patients Face Big Bills by Paula Spann. The objectives that I'm going to speak about during this presentation are Medicare policy and under observation, Christina Alexander versus Thomas E. Price, nursing home care costs, and improving access to Medicare Coverage Act by Representative Joe Courtney. So the overview of this article is about a woman named Nancy Nemi, and she was staying at a medical center in North Carolina for cardiac problems that resulted in a total of 39 days. This does not include her time that she spent in a nursing home, and it also goes in depth about the costs and labels that are associated being under Medicare's coverage, specifically the classification of under observation. So, Medicare policy and under observation. Patients can be hospitalized for periods of time without being officially admitted, in this case, officially called inpatient, and still receive test exams and medications like an inpatient would. So this is considered under observation, which is technically means they're outpatients instead of inpatients. This can cause financial struggles and fail to cover services such as nursing home care. By declaring patients as under observation, it takes away their Medicare benefits, and you cannot appeal your status like you can with other claims Medicare may deny. Inpatient care has declined majorly, which is why a lot of patients are being classified as under observation instead of inpatient care, because it's basically the same thing as outpatient care. You're just still inside the hospital walls. Medicare's policy. So Medicare has two-part policy basically in this article. Part A is that you're covered, you're an inpatient. Part B is outpatients, and those classified as under observation. Being considered as Part B, you face higher payments for things like drugs, but the major cost is nursing home care, the care you need once you're released from the hospital, because you are still technically not an inpatient, you're an outpatient, you're just in the hospital. Medicare will only cover costs for patients that have spent 3 consecutive days as inpatients. If you're an outpatient or under observation, you are on your own. You do not get any help at all. Those don't meet the 3-day requirement usually skip rehab, fearing the costs, because a lot of them, that's a high price, and later in the presentation I will show you some of the prices that can be associated with nursing home and rehab. Christina Alexander versus Thomas E. Price, Secretary of Health and Human. This was a lawsuit, and a federal judge in Connecticut certified it to allow Medicare recipients that have been hospitalized and receive observation services to appeal their observation outpatient stays. It allows hundreds of people, including Ms. Nemi, to join the suit to fight against the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. However, even if they gain the right to appeal their classification, because inpatient care is decreasing and outpatient care is growing, many still have limited to no access to skilled nursing help because they can't afford it. Nursing home care costs. This is where I talk about how expensive it can be to get help once you are released from the hospital, even though you're still considered under observation. You weren't ever considered as an inpatient. Miss Nemi needed to go to a nursing home, and most observation patients do not need to go to some kind of rehab center or nursing home, but 2/3 of them do, and that's when being considered as a under observation patient can be very problematic. So she owes close to $5,000 from her stay in the nursing home. However, that's actually low compared to most nursing home care bills, because she went to a nursing home near Greenville that charged relatively low, which is $150 to $160 a day, which to me, that's still pretty expensive. Like, that's basically a week's worth of food. I mean, I spent a little less than that, but for a family, that's a week's worth of food. And nationally, the cost is $225 a day, but can climb to $400 if not higher, in cities like New York and San Francisco. So any major city, just like the gas prices, everything else is gonna skyrocket in price. So Improving Access to Medicare Coverage Act, Representative Joe Courtney. So it would make any consecutive 3 days in a hospital the new requirement for nursing home benefits, disregarding classification as outpatient or inpatient. However, this act is moving very slowly, and suing Medicare is currently the most reasonable way to get a fair treatment to all hospitalized patients. Although strides are trying to be made, the health insurance world just isn't fair, and a lot of people feel the hurt from not having the best of coverage. How my article connects to Chapter 8. So Chapter 8 is about inpatient facilities and services, and this article shows the loopholes in inpatient facilities and those services. Because of the decline in inpatient services, they use the term under observation, which is similar to outpatients, and those costs. It shows how not to be considered as inpatients, no matter how many days spent, can cost patients a large sum of their savings. It also shows health insurance's coverage, specifically Medicare, and how they can change your cost depending on your classification. So being an under observation patient in a hospital is not going to change the care you receive because you're still in the hospital receiving care. It's just changing how much you're going to pay, which is not fair because a lot of people, hospital bills are already high, even being considered as an inpatient, because your health insurance isn't going to cover everything. But without your insurance covering most of it because you're considered a under observation is very hurtful, and many people get in debt because they can't pay that back without their insurance. That's why many people don't go to hospitals or go to doctors, because they just can't afford it, which is unfair. But outpatient facilities are on the rise and inpatient facilities are declining. Oh, and those are my references.